Hey all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. So we are here for our next Netdata office hours, and today is a user panel discussion. I want to thank Matt and Valentin for accepting the invitation to join us here on stage. So welcome, guys, and again, thank you for being available and for wanting to share your usage and your use case. Let's say.
Hello.
Hey all.
So probably before we jump into the interesting part of the event, let me just quickly share some slides. So just to give some context and yeah, and kind of say how the things will be running. So just a second. Okay. So as I mentioned, a user panel discussion is the focus of today's office hours. Going to the introductions just to share that we are having this user panel discussion as a kind of a community event where members and users can share their experiences. We want this to be kind of an open event. You can share any practical application of your usage of Netdata, and we want people to engage on discussions and explore use cases with Netdata. So if you have a use case that you like to share, if you have something that you like to share with the community, just reach out to us. We'd love to have you as a panelist. So we have here the email you can reach out to at product@netdata.cloud. These events are live and informal, so it's an open space and hopefully a kind of a safe place where you can share your use case. Um, as I mentioned today, we have Matt and Valentin with us, and I think and if you want to check out, of course, their profiles, we have here their LinkedIn profiles just to see what they're about doing and what they're actively working on. So, without further ado, I can jump into the questions. I'll probably kill the slide so we have everybody on the screen. As a first one for both of you, and we can start first with Matt. It's just share a brief introduction of yourself, what you're doing, and if you want to share about your infrastructure and what is your setup, so more people can understand how you're using Netdata.
Sure. So I'm Matt. I'm working as a platform engineer at the moment. The way that we define platform engineers is the traditional infrastructure, but also owning all of the DevOps things to kind of build the tooling for everyone else to consume. And the place that we've really jumped in with Netdata is we needed something to span our entire ecosystem, make for easy integrations. There's so much that we can tie in one pane of glass. And then because we leverage Netdata for metrics only, we have logging turned off. We're allowed by our security team to then make these dashboards available across accounts, across people, and it's just one pane of glass. Everyone can see what's going on, and as a result of it being metrics, makes it really easy for people to see, oh, the reason that this other thing isn't working is because of this. And so NetData has been invaluable for that.
Cool, Matt. And would you like to share a bit what kind of systems you're monitoring with Netdata, just for a bit of context?
Sure. So we are a full cloud shop. We have nothing on-prem, so we monitor a bunch of our AWS resources. The EC2 virtual machines get a Netdata agent on them, either the native Linux one or Prometheus exporting to Linux with vnodes and things like that for our Windows boxes. And then we also have a tool called Yace. You can find it on GitHub that we're using to then export AWS's CloudWatch metrics in a Prometheus format, so we can ingest that into Netdata, so we can see both long-standing things like VMs, but also serverless like Lambdas, containers, things like that. And application owners can see their entire ecosystem one place and really give that holistic picture. We started adding networking and synthetic checks and HTTP inserts, and it's been gaining a lot of headway. I'm not an observability engineer, so we're learning as we go, and that data team has been super helpful in helping me figure out how to do my job.
Awesome. Very interesting use case. Thanks, Matt. So probably jumping onto you, Valentin, could you also share a bit about yourself, your infrastructure, and what your setup is?
Sure. Hi, I am Valentin Valeanu, and I am here today to talk about my usage for Netdata. I'm using Netdata more for the home lab and also for a couple of servers which I have in production. It's a classic clamp stack. Also, because I love self-hosting, this brings challenges with storage servers, then firewalls, LAMP servers, and there was the need to find a proper solution. And this is how I get into Netdata.
Cool. And how long have you been using Netdata, just for kind of a
I
understanding
see,
how back?
yeah, even before the cloud feature, I think like 8 years or something.
Okay, so really one of our first users. Awesome. Thanks. So, Valentin, I think you already started hinting a bit into this. So, jumping to the next question, why did you start using Netdata? What was the reason for you to try it out and to kind of now get stuck with it, let's say?
Well, I think if you ask any engineer or developer about monitoring, system monitoring, they will say it's quite a mess or it was a mess. And I remember maybe for the ones of us that are, let's say, experienced in the times of hundreds of distributions, Linux distributions, and cacti, maybe someone can remember cacti or PRTG or RDT tools. It was such a mess. And when finally you made it work, then you do a package update and everything breaks again. So I stopped using or tried to find the monitoring solution. For me, it was okay, it doesn't exist. I will just stop trying to find one. And I'm using VirtualMin, so I was relying on their basic reporting, which is basic, but it was doing something. And then I remember I was reading one day that about this Netdata. It was a one-liner. You just run it. It's installing everything. I saw a couple of the dashboard screenshots and I was mind blown. This can't be real. And I said, okay, let's try it. At that time, because there was no cloud dashboard, it was just the one-liner. It was installing everything. And then suddenly you open the URL and you had everything. And I mean everything. I was scrolling through the page. It was unbelievable. How many data and real time. And yeah, this was how I get into the data.
And how kind of get addicted to it now? Cool. So glad it was a very nice experience from start, Valentin. Just to check, Matt, anything you'd like to add or to share on this one?
Yeah, I would echo Valentin's point of because it's a one-liner and it just works out of the box. It made it really easy to go, oh, how does this work? I'm someone who found it to start monitoring a home lab, and the ease of use is something I really look for when starting stuff because I do this all day, every day at work. I don't want to go home and really hammer on it too much. If I have to do it, I might as well just not. So that ease of use, that I think to me is one of those gateway.
Seems we lost Matt. We're probably going to wait just a bit to see if it's a connection issue.
Hear me now?
Yeah. You were lost you briefly, just a bit for a moment.
But yeah, it's the ease of use. It takes a lot of the friction out of it, and it doesn't really give you a reason to not try it. Because worst case is you just rip it back.
Okay, seems some kind of unstable connection. Let's just wait probably a bit longer and see if Matt can rejoin. Seems Matt, you're back.
Yep. Fun of doing live things.
Yeah.
I'll leave video off and see if that makes a difference. I'll actually going over to check, see if anything's going on as we're doing this on the side. But yeah, ease of use is what gets you started, and it's what keeps you there.
Cool. So out of the box, one-liner, get everything on your face without much trouble. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that both. So then, Matt, jumping on to the next question. So what is the main pain point and challenge that you currently have, and how is Netdata helping you solve them at the moment?
Sure. So the big problem that we were trying to address was we did not have an observability platform to monitor infrastructure as a whole. And when I say we didn't have a platform, we had native tooling. Like I said, we are a AWS cloud native shop. And as a result of segregating permissions that way, visibility and things like that, everything's kind of, where it's supposed to be. It's in order to go see between dev, test, and prod or any of the other things, you have to switch accounts, which logs you out of other things. And that does not make for a pane of glass that I can easily see, is it just one environment being hit? Is it multiple environments? Is it one box? Is it multiple boxes? It just wasn't very user friendly. And now with Netdata, we're able to split those off and use things like war rooms to say, here's dev, test, prod, here's all your containers, here's all of the resources for a given team in one spot. And then that way they don't have to go through, okay, I have to log out of this account, go into this other one to see if this matches. Just a lot of that, once again, friction points, that stuff that would make it really less user-friendly, make them not want to use the product. Netdata really takes that out of, because then I can say to them, hey, what do you mean there's an issue with a given instance? They can send me a link to a chart. I can go in and I can use that. I can correlate. I can kind of see what's going on ahead of time. Versus, am I in the correct account? Oh, I'm not in the correct account. I need to go switch accounts, switch roles, switch permissions. And it really slows down troubleshooting. So been really helpful there.
Okay, cool. So as you said, a single pane of glass across multiple environments, multiple settings, and you can have all your team access the same place. Of course, then managing the permissions between rooms and no need to jump around environments and permissions. Yeah.
Yep, we do that. And the fact I can do it across clouds, switches, pick and choose your option, and it all just comes in the same spot. That's huge. That's the real single pane of glass and makes it really easy to onboard users.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Matt. On your side, Valentin, anything you'd like to add or to share on this one?
I'm pretty in line with what Matt said, and maybe I can say that I don't have any challenge anymore right now, because of Netdata. It solved everything. And it's about the monitoring, the ease of deployment of the agents, and also if I receive an alert or I see something suspicious, I can just open the Netdata dashboard and I have all my nodes. I can see anomalies. I can scroll through all the nodes at the same timestamp. So yeah, this was the main challenge that I had.
Okay, glad that Netdata was able to help you out. So seems we've lost Matt again. So, but I think we can go on. It's the next question actually is starting with you, Valentin. So we can move on. So in terms of features with Netdata, what is the features or feature that you find most usable or useful for you, and that gives you more value on Netdata?
Yeah, so the feature, I think it's very easy to install and deploy. As I said, it's only a one-liner. Well, now it will be like a two-liner because you need to adopt the agent to the cloud if you want to use the cloud dashboard. But otherwise, then you have the alerting system, the real-time monitoring, which are very, very nice, and they are working very well. And yeah, I think those are the features that.
Okay. Probably just to add one thing, even though the commands are two for the installation and the claiming to cloud, you can run it in just one line the same. So it's the same thing. It's two commands. You're right, but you can do it in one go in less than 2 minutes. You have your node installed and connected to cloud and everything out of the box. So cool. Thanks, Valentin.
And if I can add, it's also the small footprint of the resources used. So it's almost non-existent. You don't see any load increase on the servers, which is great.
And this kind of a performance improvement and making sure the footprint is very small, it's always in our concern. So we always try to make sure our agent is as let's say as efficient as it can be. So that's good. From your side, Matt, anything you'd like to share or to add on this part of the features?
Like Valentin said, the installation and low profile is super easy. Once again, it makes it really easy to sell to larger teams of, well, how will this impact it? Well, here, let's show you the resources. Here's a, in the AWS space, a T2, T3 micro, single core, less than a gig of RAM. Here's what metrics look like on that. Makes it really palatable for teams. But I think the thing that's not stated is the support from you guys, like between GitHub, Discord, everything like that. That feature is the most valuable because I can get feedback. I can work with you guys. Hey, we want to see something. That's huge to us because I approached you guys about the AWS marketplace, and you guys turn that around super quick. That's something that's super valuable because that makes it feel like, hey, it's worth having that relationship with you guys because you guys are putting forth stuff that people are actually looking for, not, hey, we're solving problems that no one's asking about. So I think that's something you guys don't give yourself enough credit for.
Awesome. Thanks for adding that, Matt. And for sure, it's something we try to be engaged with the community. We try to be engaged with our users, and we try to, of course, listen to the needs they have and make sure we are building the right things. Because, as you said, if we are building something nobody wants, it's not much value. So yeah, good. So I think we can go on to the next one, and this one is for you, Matt, to start with. So how is Netdata helping you achieve your organization goals and objectives as an overall?
Sure. So the goals that we're really trying to get behind is we're trying to better enable self-service for our users, whether that be in terms of standing up instances, whether that be self-service in code, whether that be making changes, getting it automatically approved, things like that. And Netdata has been really instrumental in that because our users can get a new instance. It's right on the box when they come out of it. They can, in about a minute or two, it's available in the console. We're working to get it so it automatically adds to their war rooms. And then they can see how those applications are performing, really, really quickly. Whether that be something that sits in Amazon space, whether that be a container, whether that be an application they're installing on the EC2 instances, it gives them that visibility right out of the box. And then when they come to us or they need to troubleshoot or they're right sizing for cost, they go, hey, we don't have enough. This one process is sucking everything up. Or, hey, we spent way too much money because we're barely using X percentages. It really helps us right size and cost optimize, which is huge. But then also the war rooms and the self-contained alerting really goes a long way because we enable them to go in, build their own alerts, and then that way they alert on what they care about, not what I care about. Once again, because it's their space, we have different requirements. So.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. So building that visibility across the organization, each one can have access to their own, let's say, the servers or hosts or what's relevant to them. And as you said, be alerted on the things that are relevant to them and not what you're concerned about. Yeah. So thanks. And Valentin, from your side, anything you would like to share on this question?
Yes, a bit. As I said, I like to self-host and I have story servers and home assistants. And I think when you say Netdata, most of the people are thinking about monitoring. But there are also like third-party scenarios or off-label use, let's say like this. And mainly in my case, for example, I need to deploy or to upgrade the story server. How you find out what is the bottleneck, for example. So you drop a Netdata agent, you do a stress test, and you see immediately what is the bottleneck. It's the network card, the disks, or maybe the CPU is not powerful enough. But in the same time, you can do load stress for the web servers and see again what is the bottleneck. And also you can do it for setting up properly alerts to see malicious activities on the server and alert you in a couple of minutes maximum.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. So it's around being able to fine tune and kind of tweak your setup, or depending whatever you're setting up, and then of course get alerts on when something is not expected is happening, and you can then react to it and take some measurements. Yeah.
Because if you have full visibility on every system where Netdata is used, from CPU, RAM, disks, network, everything. So it's easy.
Nothing should go without you seeing or knowing about it. Yeah. Thanks. So the next one is also for you, Valentin. Any area Netdata needs to improve to better help on your use case? Anything you see that is lacking or you would like to see on the product?
Well, there are already huge improvements if we look at how and where Netdata started and where it is now. I think there are huge improvements, and updates and improvements are announced and coming quite often. So from my side, I don't know if something is missing, at least in my cases. So
nothing to highlight. So we are doing the right things at the moment. Okay. That's a good feedback. That's good feedback, Valentin. From your side, Matt, anything you'd like to share on this one?
Yeah. Everything I've brought up to you guys in areas of improvement either has already made its way onto the roadmap in some capacity, such as role-based access control. So that way I can have a group in some form of single sign-on provider, whether it be Okta or Microsoft or Google, or wherever I want to host it, and use that to automatically allow a person that gets brought on to be in the correct war rooms with the correct permissions is a huge thing. Single sign-on was a huge thing. Rolling things up into AWS's marketplace, so that way I only have one build made, was a huge thing. The Windows collectors are a huge thing. I don't think there's an area that Netdata necessarily needs to improve on, because you guys turn stuff around so quickly. And so it's one of those areas that, someone raises a feature like I've done plenty of times, and it's not that it needs to improve. It's just, hey, here's what I'd like to see. And then you guys go off and work your magic. So it's not a needs to improve. It's just you guys haven't gotten there yet because no one's told you that, hey, we're looking for this. So I guess the only thing that might be more useful is maybe have one of the devs spend 1 week inside of running down the help channel, because I feel like at least on Discord you see a lot of community driven support, which is great because that means people are here and they've really explored the product. But maybe a dev to track things down, because I feel like some threads either get attention and some don't. So that might be the only thing to do that, or even if it's just an emote that says, hey, someone actually looked at this, kind of a thing.
That's actually very, very nice feedback. Of course, we try mostly between PMs and some people looking at the community to keep an eye on these threads, as you mentioned, and sometimes some may slip by. So this kind of emoji, or even having some of the devs taking like a round robin to take a look at that could be helpful. So that's interesting feedback. And on the other point, as you said, so the features that you have been spotting as you need, because you need it or your organization needs it, keep the feedback coming, because it's this kind of feedback that helps us grow our product, and in this case, make our product also more appealing for enterprises and people to not just use the Netdata as an home lab tool. Netdata can be used in enterprises, in corporates. So it's helping us also grow the product. So keep that feedback coming. It's really helpful. So before we probably jump to questions from the audience, we can go to the last one. So this is going to be for the both of us, a bit like we have been doing already from the beginning. So it's more about sharing if you have a kind of a use case or a troubleshooting scenario that Netdata has helped you in the past. If you could share a bit about that and tell us how Netdata helped you on that. And probably we can go to you, Valentin.
Yes, and we go back to one of the off-labels situation where Netdata was helpful. Actually, I wrote an article on the blog, and it was about, I received an alert. One of the servers had a a sudden spike in the CPU load, way above the averages. So I just opened the dashboard, I went to the server, and the spike was not a spike, was actually a vertical to 100% CPU usage, and then it was a full block. So it was full 100%, and it was clear something is happening. So I just scrolled down to the users tab on Netdata, and in 30 seconds I saw what was happening, which user was creating this. I was just logging into a server and stopped. It was an attempt to DDoS someone else because a backdoor in a script was somehow managed on one of my domains that was part and not in use. But Netdata, in 1-2 minutes, I was able to solve the issue because of Netdata, because very fast real-time monitoring and alerting, and I could see in a single page what was happening and what was the issue, the user under which the process that was creating this huge load and the user that was working under.
So as you said, the real-time monitoring, the metric resolution, you're able to pinpoint exactly what's happening, and of course the alerts, the timely alerts help you kind of react fast. Cool. Thanks for sharing the case. Matt, on your side, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, like I said earlier, because we are a full cloud shop, we've been doing a lot of work to ingest Amazon's metrics into Netdata, so that way teams can consume them and things like that. And it's been really helpful for teams because they'll spin up a new application and there's so many moving pieces from so many different places, so many different technologies. And we've had many teams where they'll throw an error, we'll hop on a call, we'll like, here's Netdata, here's your room. Okay, you saw this, let's go ahead, let's hit correlate. Okay, we saw this. Did you guys have any jobs kick off, like automated build runners for any sort of development work? Oh, we did. And then that sees the spike, that sees network spike. Then we see a bunch of spikes, and it's like, hey, it wasn't something failed. It's just there weren't enough resources on, for example, one of the build nodes, and that's why the job failed. And it's a lot of that. Here's how we did it. Here's that process, and goes towards that self-service model of everything's here for you. If something's missing, let us know. We'll get it in there, and then later on you have what you need. It originally came into us as a troubleshooting tool of the box is unresponsive or the box is picked. And so like Valentine, we can go in, see what's causing that, and really just do that troubleshooting, whether it be something someone didn't plan or threw too many things at, and we're just botched. So good there.
Cool. Thanks for sharing, Matt. So this is also helping you, as you said, getting this self-service model for your teams so they can understand what's happening. They can understand scenarios like this, that the host that was doing the build was not having enough resources, and then of course they can prepare for making it available to be able to proceed. So cool. So that was our last question. I mean, from our side, from the panel. So we can let me check the chat to see if there's any questions coming from the audience, because we'll now be opening this for anybody watching. So there's some discussion about the Windows monitoring. I see that Sati is replying. So David was saying that the previous way we are monitoring, probably for people to know, the way we are currently supporting Windows monitoring is through remote monitoring. So you need to install Windows Exporter on the Windows machine, and using our Prometheus endpoint, you can scrape these metrics exposed by the Windows Exporter, and deploying a Netdata agent on a Linux machine or a FreeBSD machine, you can scrape these metrics from the Windows machine. This was a kind of an interim solution until we dived into building a Windows native agent. So at the moment, we are on the stage to do this release of the Windows native agent. We are trying to aim it to the end of this month to do the first release of this. So soon, monitoring a Windows machine will be like monitoring a Linux or a FreeBSD machine. It will be natively an agent natively running on the machine. And also in terms of footprint, I can share it's going to be similar to the Linux footprint. So we are not going to. We still have concerns, of course, making the agent efficient and not cause this. But let me just see if there's anything else. No, nothing, just speaking about the Windows machine. But so hope by the end of this month we have more news for you, and then you can try this native agent that we'll be releasing. So let me just scroll to see if there's anything before, but I think all the things are covered. And I don't see any question popping up. I think you guys were very clear on your use cases and the way you're using Netdata. So if let's see, there's a question for Matt. Let me put it up. So from Satya, how frequently do you scrape metrics from CloudWatch? It must cost a bomb.
So it's funny you guys mention that. That I was telling Hugo earlier this week, maybe it was late last week. That is right now our biggest pain point when it comes to CloudWatch logs, because our CloudWatch bill, we are a large AWS shop, and I think a month of metrics is more than our Netdata bill winds up being, because we're multiple regions, multiple resources, multiple accounts. There's a lot of stuff. So to answer your question, yes, it costs an arm and a leg at its current stage. We are in the process of pruning that. For example, one of the big things is, given that AWS only publishes most metrics on a 5-minute window, we have to set the scraping interval to then be closer to that 5-minute window, because 30, 45 seconds, I'm getting 8, 9, 10 times the same data, but I'm getting 9 times the API calls. So just by right sizing based on what AWS is actually providing brings our costs down a good chunk. But it's not there yet. We had looked at things like Datadog and a bunch of the other solutions, and they recommend they're going to do the API calls. They're going to use Kinesis fire hoses. And so you're going to incur even additional costs on top of that. But if you're paying for the full-on Datadog, you might have more money than I'm willing to spend. So yes, until AWS gets it out of their house, costs are high. So I would recommend the collector we're using is Yace. It's on GitHub. And I think I found it through one of the 2 Netdata exporter options. I'll probably throw some of the examples that we've started pulling for configs in their file, so that way other people can consume that. But it's roughly 5 minutes for configs, and then certain other ones like Lambdas and some of the other stuff, we're doing shorter timeframes, and then things like SSL certs and Route 53 for DNS entries, those are closer to a day, because I'm not changing them that often. More specifically, I shouldn't be changing them that often.
So now it's more, as you said, on the pruning and tuning of these settings on the exporter, and how frequent you want to get the metrics. Yeah. Cool. So I think that was the last question. If nothing else pops up, we can wrap it up here. I thank you again, Matt and Valentin, for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you here on the panel, and thanks for sharing your use case and for being community members of Netdata, and keep keeping the feedback coming.
Happy to do it, guys. If anyone has questions for me, I'm in the Discord. David, if you wanted to talk about the Windows exporter stuff, I'm happy to chat that down with you and see if I can't figure out where you're running afoul of that.
Thanks for the availability, Matt. So as you said, if you want to join Discord, feel free to join Discord. We have a community there that is helpful and hopefully can support your use case as well. So see you around, and thanks.
Catch you guys.
Bye-bye.